The female CEO slapped a 50 million check on the table with a cold look. He's back. You can pack up and leave. As her stand-in lover for 3 years, I didn't break down crying like she expected. Instead, my eyes lit up as I grabbed the check. Terrified she'd change her mind, I packed up and sprinted out overnight. To my surprise, the next evening, while renting out an entire upscale club for a party, I bumped into her while she was there for business. With bloodshot eyes, she pinned me against the wall, her voice trembling uncontrollably. Using my money to throw a party for another woman who allowed you to terminate the stand-in contract early. All settled, President B. Wishing you both lifelong happiness. I folded that light 50 million check in half, carefully tucked it into my inner pocket and patted my chest twice. Super reassuring. This was the closest I'd ever come to revenge. Bisway sat on the leather sofa, legs crossed, chin slightly raised, staring at me coldly with sharp eyeliner. Don't you have anything to say? Yes. I stood straight and bowed 90 degrees. Thank you for your cultivation over the past 3 years, President B. I will disappear immediately and never get in the way of you and that gentleman. Bai frowned, her voice dropping an octave. Lino, you've been with me for 3 years. I stated the exact numbers. Yes, President, by 3 years, 2 months and 4 days. According to the contract, a partial month counts as a full month, but since you gave 50 million directly, I won't bother calculating those few days. She stood up abruptly, her high heels thudding on the carpet. Aren't you going to ask who he is? I shook my head. It's not important. I don't pry into employer privacy. Bay stared dead at me, her chest heaving. I genuinely suspected she was moved by my high professional standards. She pointed at the door. Get out. All right. I turned and walked away fast, knowing rich people spend impulsively and might regret it once clear-headed. 50 million put in a high-yield certificate. 1 year of interest would be enough to open 10 Shaxian eateries. I rushed upstairs to the bedroom, pulled out my 4-year-old snakeskin bag, and packed my 6 discount Uniqlo t-shirts, 3 sweatpants and Pinduo Duo slippers in 3 minutes. Carrying my bag downstairs, I found Bai Wei still pointing at the door. Seeing my bag, she froze. What is the meaning of this? I bounced the bag, packing up and leaving. Rest assured, President Bai, everything here was bought with my own money. I didn't take a single thread from this villa. Bish took a deep breath. Lin Xiao, do you think I'm joking with you? I replied deadpan. Not at all. I'm very serious. I've already verified the check. She grabbed a couch pillow, her knuckles turning white. I checked the time. 10:30 p.m. Calling a ride now catches the late night discount. President B. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Hold on. She gritted her teeth. Who permitted you to leave right now? I froze. Didn't you just tell me to get out? She sneered. I tell you to get out and you just get out. Why weren't you this obedient before? I sighed. Never guessed the boss's mind. President B. That was before. When you paid me 100,000 a month. Of course I was obedient. Now that you've given me 50 million to buy me out, our employment relationship is terminated. Employment relationship? Yeah. Isn't a stand-in just a high-paying nanny? Baiwei's face turned hideous. She slammed the pillow down. Lino, you've got nerve. If you walk out that door today, don't ever come back begging me. I patted my chest. Rest assured, I won't come back begging for breadcrumbs. With that, I opened the door and dashed into the night. A loud crash rang out behind me. Sounds like a vase broke. I quickened my pace. Rich people really have bad tempers. Spending 50 million and still smashing stuff for noise. Standing at the villa gate, I hailed a ride share on my phone. After 5 minutes, a white Corolla pulled up, ending in 3344. Yes. I opened the door and shoved my bag in. A guy inside was eating a jianbing. Brother coming out of the rich neighborhood late at night. Yeah, just quit my job. Security guard. Watching the scenery recede. I thought, close enough. My phone buzzed. A WeChat message from Baiyue. You better not regret this. I opened the keyboard and replied quickly. No regrets whatsoever. Wishing you a happy life, President Bai, then click delete and block in one smooth motion. Rule number 1 for workers. Never stay friends with your ex-boss after quitting. Leaning back, I closed my eyes, planning how to spend that 50 million, buy a shop, open a restaurant. Perfect. The car stopped at an old residential compound. I carried my bag upstairs and unlocked the door of my 1,500 yuan a month rental. Tattered but homely. I tossed the bag into the corner. No more getting up at 6 a.m. to make stomach-soothing porridge for Byway. No more waiting up every night to draw her bath after her business dinners. The sweet taste of freedom. My phone rang. A call from my childhood friend mooing. "Hello," she roared. "Lino, what crazy episode are you throwing at night? What's with the text saying you got your revenge? Win $5 on a lottery ticket." I lowered my voice. "No, I got 50 million in severance." Silence for 3 seconds. "Did you kidnap Byway?" I rolled over. "No, her white moonlight lover came back, so she dumped me." She gasped. "For real? 50 million in cash check. Holy crap." Her voice nearly blew out my eardrum. "Tomorrow at 8 a.m. bring the check. I'll take you to check out shops. Agency fee waived." What a true friend. "You bet." She paused though. "Can you really let go of Bay?" I stared at the peeling ceiling paint. Let go of what? Her making me wear white shirts identical to her white moonlights every day. Fair point. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. Next evening. Mu Qingyan raised her glass. A toast to Boss Lin. Ice clinked in the glass. To freedom. Just as I raised my glass, the door swung open and a familiar figure appeared. It was Byway. She wore a tailored black suit, her expression colder than the outfit. Behind her were several men in suits, looking like business clients, but her eyes were locked onto me, specifically onto my arm, resting on Mu Yan's shoulder. Music blasted in the room, but the air pressure dropped instantly. Mu Yan followed my gaze, her glass shaking. "Lin Xiao," she whispered. "Isn't that your ex-boss?" "Yeah." I pulled back my arm and sat up straight. Byway said a few words to the clients behind her, and those people nodded, turned and went to another private room. She walked toward me step by step in her high heels. With every step she took, I felt like she was stepping on my heartbeat. Not out of romance, but because she looked like she wanted to murder someone. I stood up and greeted her politely. President B, ignoring me, she walked straight up to me, swept her eyes over the liquor on the table, and Mu Qingyan grabbed my collar and shoved me hard. My back slammed against the wall with a dull thud. Her eyes were bloodshot and covered in red veins, looking as if she hadn't slept for 3 straight nights. Using my money to rent out a whole club and throw a party for another woman? Her voice trembled uncontrollably. "Lino, who allowed you to terminate the stand-in contract early?" I was choked so hard I could barely breathe, but my professional standards kept me calm. I turned my head with difficulty toward Mu Qingyan, who was trembling in the corner of the sofa. "Qingyan, bring that red booklet over." Mu Yan scrambled to pull a red-covered book with gold lettering from her bag and handed it to me. I raised it in front of Byway. "President B, you've misunderstood." I looked at her sincerely. "This is a business license. She's a real estate agent I hired. She waives the agency fee for buying commercial properties. I only bought her a drink to save that 2% commission." Byway's eyes landed on the business license. Legal representative Lin Xiao registered capital 50 million. Her expression froze and her grip on my collar loosened a bit. She turned to look at Muing. Agent Muing Yan immediately stood up straight and pulled out a business card. "Yes, President B. Anjuk Gold Sales Agent Muing at your service. Do you have any home buying needs recently?" Byway didn't take the card. Her ears turned visibly red at a speed noticeable to the naked eye, but the dignity of a female CO could not be trampled. She abruptly pulled back her hand and straightened her suit jacket. "Lin Xiao, do you think you can fool me with this?" I rubbed my sore back. "What did I fool you about?" She coldly spat out 3 words. "Breach of contract damages. You unilaterally terminated our employment relationship early. Have you settled the breach penalty?" I was stunned. "But President B, you were the one who told me to get out." She raised her chin slightly. "Do you have a recording?" "No." "Do you have a written termination agreement?" "No." "Then you are still my employee." Baisu turned and walked out in her high heels. At the door she stopped. "I'll give you half an hour to get your ass back to the villa, or I'll have my legal team sue you into bankruptcy." The door shut. Dead silence filled the room. Mu Qingyan swallowed hard. "Lin Xiao, is this ex-boss of yours completely crazy?" "Maybe," I sighed, picking up the half glass of liquor on the table and draining it in one gulp. "Capitalists are all bloodsuckers. They'll find any way to deduct even 50 million yuan. Carrying my snakeskin bag, I returned to the villa once again. Byway was sitting on the living room sofa. Seeing the bag in my hand, she let out a cold snort. "Put it back." "Understood, President B." I deftly carried the bag up to the second floor and hung the 6 discounted Unilo t-shirts back into the closet. Life returned to square one, except this time I was more vigilant because that legendary white moonlight lover was coming back. I had to prepare myself thoroughly. I had even looked up online how to elegantly tear apart a manipulative rival, mentally preparing myself to get slapped in the face with a check at any moment. At noon the next day the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, adjusted my apron and walked to the entryway to open the door. Standing outside was a young guy with bleached yellow hair, around 20 years old, wearing an oversized streetwear t-shirt and limited edition sneakers. He was holding a plastic bag full of bright red crayfish. He sized me up. "Who are you?" Smiling I replied. "I'm the housekeeper here. Or new hire." He shoved the crayfish into my hands. "Take them and wash them. Put extra garlic. My sister loves it." With that, he changed his shoes and strutted arrogantly into the living room. Looking at the crayfish in my hands, I fell into deep thought. This is the legendary white moonlight. This cluelessly naive gaze, this brazenly entitled tone. No matter how you looked at him, he was just an unpunished male college student. "Sis." Yellow hair howled from the living room. Baisu walked out of the study, frowning slightly. "Lingyu, what are you doing here again?" "Lingyu?" I perked up my ears. That name didn't sound like a proper white moonlight lover at all. "Sis, I came to see you." Lingyu sidled up with a flattering smile. "I specifically bought your favorite crayfish from that old brand in the south of the city." Waited in line for half an hour. Baiwei remained expressionless. "Speak like a human." Lingyu instantly dropped to his knees and slid across the floor, grabbing Baiwei's leg. "Sis, lend me $2,000 to buy a game skin. My mom cut off my allowance." Snot and tears poured down his face. "I can't even afford instant noodles this month, so I had to come eat at your place." Standing at the kitchen doorway holding half-peeled garlic, I froze completely. Looking at the yellow-haired guy crying while hugging her leg and then at Baiwei's utterly disgusted face, I finally understood this wasn't any white moonlight lover. He was her biological cousin. So that line, "He's back, you can leave," was nothing more than a terrible excuse Baiwei made up just to hand me that 50 million yuan. I threw the garlic into the trash, washed my hands and walked out holding 2 glasses of lemonade. "President B, young Master Ling, have some water." Lingyu took the water and gulped down a large mouthful. "Thanks. You're pretty sharp for a housekeeper." He turned to Baiwei. "Sis, where'd you find this housekeeper?" "He's pretty handsome. Just dresses a bit rustic." Baiwei's face darkened instantly. "Shut up and drink your water." I retreated to the kitchen and started cleaning the crayfish. As I scrubbed, I replayed every detail of the past 3 years. She had never asked me to adopt anyone else's habits. Nor had she ever called me by another person's name. Even when I bought discounted vegetables to cook for her, she would clean her plate every time. This wasn't looking for a stand-in. This was targeted poverty alleviation. That evening, after eating and drinking his fill, Lin Yao left satisfied with his 2,000 yuan. Once again it was just Baiwei and me left in the villa. She sat on the sofa reviewing documents, looking somewhat distracted. I brought over a plate of sliced fruit and placed it on the coffee table. "President B." Without raising her head, she asked, "What about that 50 million when I should return it to you?" Looking at her sincerely, "Since you don't actually have a white moonlight lover, there's no reason for me to take severance pay." Her hand flipping through the document paused. She looked up, a trace of panic in her eyes. "Who said I don't have a white moonlight?" She forced a calm composure. "Ling Yao is just my cousin. My real white moonlight lover is still abroad and hasn't returned yet." I nodded. "Then once he returns, I'll refund it to you." "No need to refund it." Her voice suddenly raised. "Once I give money out, I never have the habit of taking it back. Keep it. Keep it to open your lousy restaurant." I smiled softly. "Thank you, President Bai." Turning toward the kitchen, I suddenly felt that this icy female CEO was actually kind of cute. In the blink of an eye, autumn arrived and days in the villa remained peaceful. I cooked meals on time every day, cleaned up, and occasionally tolerated Baiwei's unreasonable tantrums until that Alienware laptop broke down. Lin Xiao, the computer froze. Baiwei shouted from the second-floor landing. "There's a really important acquisition file in there that I need for this afternoon's meeting. Deal with it for me." "Sure thing, President B." Wiping the water off my hands, I ran upstairs. Baiwei was already dressed in her suit to go out. "I'm heading to the company first. Email the file to me once you fix it." High heels clicking. She rushed downstairs. I entered her study, sat at the computer, and forced a restart. The screen lit up and the system recovered. Just as I was about to search for that acquisition file, the browser automatically restored the unclosed tabs from last time. It was the back-end author dashboard of a web novel site. I blinked in surprise. President B actually reads web novels. My eyes scanned the book title right in the middle of the screen. The Substitute Doting Husband. President B's Pampered Treasure. Author pen name Snowflakes Drifting. I rubbed my eyes to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Scrolling down, I clicked on the latest chapter. Chapter 108, The 50 Million Yuan Test. I swallowed hard and began reading. Bai Wei stared at the 50 million yuan check on the table, her heart aching in agony. She deliberately put on a cold face. He's back. You can leave now. In reality, there was no other man at all. She just wanted a valid reason to give him this money so he could fulfill his dream of opening a restaurant. Yet this fool actually took the money and ran without even turning back. At that moment, Bai Wei felt her heart shatter into pieces. Staring at the screen, I felt like hundreds of screaming chickens were being squeezed in my brain simultaneously. What on earth was this? Scrolling further back to chapter 56, the porridge he made for me. My stomach ulcer flared up again today, making me break out in a cold sweat from the pain. That man walked over holding a bowl of millet porridge. Little did he know how charming he looked wearing that apron. He was always so pragmatic, calculating discount thresholds even when buying groceries at the supermarket. Yet, it was precisely this down-to-earth warmth of everyday life that captivated her so deeply. As Bai Wei drank the porridge, she swore in her heart that she would keep him by her side for the rest of her life. Leaning back against the chair, I took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. So all along, what I thought was a high-paying housekeeper gig over the past 3 years was actually an extended doting husband training game in my employer's eyes. She wasn't a cold-blooded female CEO. She was a severe Sundra romantic who was so bad at expressing herself that she accidentally took a roundabout route from chasing me to keeping a lover. That 50 million wasn't severance. It was her seed money to start my restaurant. Pulling out my phone, I snapped a dozen photos of the screen, then quietly closed the browser. I located the acquisition document and emailed it to her. After finishing, I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. I decided to stop overthinking internally. Since she liked playing with contrasts, I would use down-to-earth methods to turn up the intensity on her. At 8 p.m., Bai Wei dragged her exhausted body back to the villa. She habitually sat on the sofa. Lino brewed me a cup of black coffee. Rubbing her temples, her voice was raspy. I walked over carrying a tray and placed it on the coffee table. No black coffee, only a bowl of thick yam and lean meat porridge plus a glass of warm honey water. Bai Wei frowned. I said, I want black coffee. I still have 2 financial reports to review. Ignoring her, I reached right out and shut her laptop with a swift, decisive move. What are you doing? Her eyes widened, clearly caught off guard by my boldness. I shoved a spoon into her hand. Your stomach condition hasn't recovered yet. Are you trying to land in the ER by drinking black coffee on an empty stomach? She froze, looking at the spoon in her hand and then back at me. Lino, have you forgotten your place? Aren't you just a substitute? I know. I pulled up a chair and sat down opposite her, hands folded over my knees, but the contract doesn't say a substitute can't manage his employer's meals. Drink up quickly. I simmered this porridge for 4 hours. Bai Wei opened her mouth as if to vent her temper, but meeting my calm gaze, she ultimately lowered her head and silently scooped a spoonful into her mouth. Through the rising steam, I noticed her ears turning red again, exactly as written in her novel. From that day on, I stopped acting like a meek, fearful substitute. I reverted to my true self, a down-to-earth worker who had scrambled at the bottom of society, well-versed in life skills and human nature. At 10 p.m. sharp, bedtime, I stood at the study door and knocked on the door frame. President B, your hairline has receded by a full centimeter compared to 3 years ago. Keep staying up late and you'll go bald. Bai Wei snapped her head up, covering her forehead. What nonsense are you talking about? Whether it's nonsense or not, you can see for yourself in the mirror. I walked over and unplugged her computer power cord directly. Go to sleep. Her chest heaved with rage. Lin Xiao, do you think I've been too lenient with you lately? I nodded. Pretty lenient, yeah. So, tomorrow morning I'd like to eat steamed buns from that shop downstairs. Grab me 2 meat buns on your way to the company. Bai Wei was completely stunned. You want me to bring you buns? A billionaire female CEO queuing up to buy 2 yuan meat buns. This was totally outside her realm of comprehension. I countered, "Is there a problem? I cook 3 meals a day for you. Bringing me breakfast once in a while is just basic reciprocity, isn't it?" Biting her lower lip, she glared at me fiercely. I thought she would blow up, deduct my pay, or even throw another check at me, but she didn't. She just stood up, huffing mad, pushed past me and walked out of the study. Meat buns only, no veggie ones. The next morning, sure enough, 2 piping hot meat buns were sitting on the dining table. I took a bite. Pretty delicious. Watching Bai Wei sitting opposite me, cutting whole wheat bread with a knife and fork while darting glances at me, I felt like this kind of life was actually quite fun until an uninvited guest shattered the tranquility. On a weekend afternoon, while I was watering my scallions on the balcony, the front door of the villa was kicked open. A man wearing a black suit, oozing malice, walked in accompanied by 2 bodyguards. "You're Lin Xiao, right?" The man stepped up to me, looking down arrogantly. "I'm Bai Wei's older brother, Bai Qin." Setting down the watering can, I wiped my hands. "Brother-in-law, Mr. Bai." "Hello." Bai Qin sneered, pulled out a check from his jacket and slapped it onto the side table. "I know what a gold digger like you is after. Here's 10 million. Take the money and leave my sister." He raised his chin slightly, his eyes filled with contempt. "Don't think that just because we had a moment of confusion and brought you back, you can fly up the tree and turn into a phoenix." Looking at that 10 million yuan check, I sighed. Why does everyone in the Bai family love throwing checks around? And this older brother's gesture is clearly far less generous than his sister's. Dropping from 50 million to 10 million is a real downgrade in spending. Bai Qin frowned. "Think it's too little?" "It's not a matter of too little or too much." I turned around, walked into the living room, retrieved a thick notebook from the TV cabinet drawer, walked back and handed it to Bai Qin. He didn't take it. "What's this?" "The household ledger." I opened to the first page. President Bai's daily expenses over the past 3 years. I pointed at the dense rows of figures. October 2021, saved 4,500 yuan on groceries by taking advantage of the supermarkets post 8 p.m. Fresh food discounts. March 2022, saved 2,100 yuan buying villa cleaning supplies through group buying. January 2023. Resold President Bai's discarded old clothes on second-hand platforms, recouping 35,000 yuan. Bai Qin's expression turned from contempt to utter shock as he stared with wide eyes at those numbers. I closed the ledger. Over 3 years, through meticulous planning, I've saved the Bai family roughly over 2 million yuan in wasteful expenses, including these scallions on the balcony. I grew them myself using root scraps given for free at the market, saving several hundred yuan a year on scallions. Bai Qin looked at that pot of thriving scallions completely stunned. The 2 bodyguards behind him also traded bewildered glances. "So Mr. Bai." I pushed the 10 million check back toward him. "I'm not a gold digger. I am a wealth managing partner with exceptional professional standards. Your 10 million isn't even as much as the money I'll save President B over the next 30 years. Bai Qin went silent for a full minute. Then he silently reclaimed the check and pulled out his phone. "Brother, add me on WeChat," he said, a hint of awe in his tone. "Teach me how to sell clothes on second-hand platforms. I went broke recently and can't even afford gas for my car." Pulling out my phone, I scanned his QR code. "No problem, brother Bai. Remember to come support my new restaurant sometime." My small eatery finally opened, named Lin's Home Cooking, located in an alley in the Old City District. There were no luxury cars gathered nor an ocean of flower baskets. Only a fortune cat sent by Muing Yen wishing me good luck placed on the cashier counter. Business on opening day was decent. Dressed in my chef's uniform, I was sweating profusely in the back kitchen. At 12:30 p.m., the restaurant welcomed a special guest, Bai Wei. She was wearing a silver haute couture outfit. Clearly having rushed over straight from a high-end dinner or press conference, walking on 10 cm red-bottom high heels, standing at the restaurant entrance, looking at the greasy floor and cheap plastic stools, her brows knit tight enough to crush a fly. I walked over and handed her a paper towel. "President B, what brings you here?" "Stubborn as ever," she insisted. "Just passing by, dropped in to see how your 50 million is going down the drain." I smiled, pulled out a plastic stool, wiped it thoroughly with a paper towel and said, "Have a seat. What would you like to eat?" "My treat." Bai Wei sat down awkwardly, not even caring that the hem of her haute couture dress dragged on the floor. "Whatever. I'll eat whatever you cook." I turned around, went into the kitchen. and whipped up a plate of hot and sour shredded potatoes, a plate of twice-cooked pork, plus a bowl of tomato and egg soup. When I brought the dishes out, several young girls at the neighboring table were whispering among themselves. One long-haired girl stood up, walked to me and blushed slightly. "Boss, your food is delicious. Can I add your WeChat? It'll be convenient for ordering food in the future." She held out her phone with her QR code on screen. Just as I was about to say she could call the landline number on the wall to order before I could speak, slap. A sharp sound rang out. Byway abruptly stood up. She whipped out a black card from her limited edition Hermes messenger bag, slammed it heavily onto the table, and swept a cold, piercing glare across the long-haired girl. "Call the landline to order," Byway said in a voice that wasn't loud, but carried an immense aura. "Also, he's taken. Forget about adding his WeChat." Terrified by her commanding presence, the long-haired girl glanced at the legendary unlimited black card on the table, then at Byway's priceless designer outfit and scurried back to her seat in embarrassment. The restaurant fell instant dead quiet as everyone secretly observed this out-of-place female CEO. Looking at the black card on the table, I couldn't help but chuckle. I walked over, picked up the card and stuffed it back into her bag. "President B. Your way of asserting ownership is a bit pricey, isn't it?" Byway scoffed. "It's my money. I do what I want." She sat back down on the plastic stool, picked up her chopsticks, and began eating the shredded potatoes, her ears turning as red as cooked shrimp. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a brass key with a little bear pendant attached, a spare key to my restaurant. Leaning over her shoulder, I hung the key around her neck. "President B." I leaned down and whispered into her ear. "At my place, using this key to assert ownership is far more effective than a black card." Byway froze. She looked down at the ordinary brass key resting on her chest, her fingers gently rubbing the teddy bear pendant. After a long pause, she murmured under her breath, "At least you know what's good for you." That afternoon she polished off the entire plate of twice-cooked pork by herself, and on her way out she even swiped 2 mint candies from my cashier counter. After the key incident, a subtle shift took place in our relationship. Over the weekend I suggested going on a date, and Byway happily agreed. She traded her business suit for a simple t-shirt and jeans, though she still wore those sunglasses that screamed, "Stay away." Sitting in the passenger seat, she asked, "Where are we going?" "An amusement park." Half an hour later, we were standing at the entrance of the city's largest amusement park amidst a sea of people under the blazing sun. Seeing the endless queue, Byway frowned. "Lin Xiao, call the park manager." Pulling out her phone, she ordered, "Rent out the whole place and clear everyone out." I immediately pressed her hand down. "President B. Renting out the whole place takes away all the fun. The essence of an amusement park lies in queuing and crowding together." She stared at me in disbelief. "You enjoy smelling other people's sweat?" "No." I took her hand and walked toward a grilled sausage stall. "I enjoy this down-to-earth warmth of ordinary life." Spending 10 yuan, I bought 2 grilled sausages and handed her one. She eyed the greasy bamboo skewer with disgust, but under my gaze she took a small bite anyway. "It's all starch," she judged before taking another huge bite. We waited 40 minutes in line to ride the roller coaster. When we got off, her legs were weak, her hands gripping my arm tightly, her sunglasses lopsided, and her hair a messy heap, completely stripped of her female CEO image. Yet I thought she looked 100 times better than her usual self sitting in an office issuing orders. In the afternoon, as we passed an arcade, Byway stopped in her tracks. Her eyes were locked onto a claw machine near the entrance, filled with pink plush teddy bears. I asked, "Want one?" She averted her gaze. "No, why would I want something that tricks kids? Totally zero skill involved." 10 minutes later, she stood in front of the claw machine, a handful of game tokens gripped tightly in her hand, staring with a fierce expression as if she were eyeing a multi-hundred million yuan MA deal. I refused to believe this. Gritting her teeth, she manipulated the joystick. The claw descended, missed again. Half an hour passed, and 500 yuan worth of game tokens were completely gone without snagging even a single strand of bear fur. Byway took a deep breath, turned around and pulled out her phone. "Hello, Secretary Li. Find out who owns this arcade." Her voice was as cold as ice. "I want to acquire this shop right now, immediately." I quickly snatched her phone and hung up the call. "My dear lady, please calm down." She pointed at the claw machine. "I won't calm down. The claw on this machine is definitely rigged. This is commercial fraud. I sighed, pulled out the single remaining game token from my pocket, and dropped it into the machine. Watch closely. Holding the joystick, I pressed the button without hesitation. The claw wobbled downward, precisely hooked around a plush bear's neck, slowly rose without a tremor, and with a clack, the bear fell right into the exit chute. Bending over, I grabbed the plush bear and shoved it into her arms. 10 yuan worth of happiness. No need to buy out the shop. Holding that cheap plush bear, Baiwei froze on the spot. Her eyes suddenly welled with tears. Not out of anger, but with the softness that comes from letting down all defenses. She buried her face in the bear's plush fur and burst into a silly giggle. Looking at her at that moment, I truly felt that she wasn't some high and mighty CEO. She was just my Baiwei. As life settled onto the right track, business at my restaurant grew better and better to the point where I even hired 2 waitstaff. Meanwhile, Baiwei's company reached a major milestone, preparing for an IPO. She became extremely busy, often working overtime until dawn. Every night, I would simmer nutritious soup, pack it into a thermal flask, and ride my electric scooter to her company to deliver a late-night snack. The front desk staff and security guards all got to know me, secretly calling me President B's secret guardian angel. On the eve of the IPO, Baiwei's stress reached its peak. When I pushed open her office door, she was slumping over her desk, her shoulders quivering slightly. I walked over, put down the thermal flask, and gently patted her back. What's wrong? She raised her head, her eyes completely red. Lino, what if the IPO fails? A touch of vulnerability trembled in her voice. Those old fogies on the board are waiting to mock me. If it fails, I might lose control of the company. Pulling up a chair to sit down, I looked at her calmly. If it fails, it fails. Her eyes widened. You make it sound so easy. That's 3 years of my blood, sweat, and tears. So what? Opening the thermal flask, I ladled out a bowl of pork rib soup and handed it to her. If you go bankrupt, worst case scenario, I'll support you. I pointed at myself. My restaurant makes a net profit of 20,000 yuan a month now. Enough for us to rent a 2-bedroom apartment and eat meat every day. Holding the bowl, Baiwei was stunned. You're willing to support me? I smiled. Why wouldn't I be? Besides, your brother is already learning from me how to sell clothes on second-hand platforms. When the time comes, both of you siblings can come wait tables at my restaurant, and I'll pay you wages. She burst out, laughing, tears dropping into the soup. Wiping her tears, she playfully scolded me. Get lost. Who wants to wait tables for you? But the speed at which she drank the soup clearly picked up and her brow relaxed. I knew she wasn't afraid of failure. She was just afraid of having nothing left after failing. And I had given her the most down-to-earth safety net. A few days later, Baiwei's company successfully rang the opening bell on Nasdaq, making headlines across major financial news outlets. That evening, the company held a grand celebration banquet at a rented 5-star hotel. I didn't receive an invitation because Baiwei said those events were too boring, filled with fake social pleasantries unsuited for me. But I knew she was actually afraid that those snobs would look down on a small-time restaurant owner like me. She wanted to protect me, but I didn't want to be protected by her forever. At 8 p.m., as the celebration banquet reached its climax, Baiwei stood under the spotlight in a gorgeous evening gown, accepting everyone's congratulations. Holding a champagne glass, her smile was elegant, yet carried a hint of fatigue. Pushing a food cart, I walked in through the side door of the banquet hall. Loaded on the cart were street food snacks I had spent the entire afternoon preparing. Grilled wheat gluten, fried starch sausages, and iron plate squid. The security guards wanted to stop me, but seeing the brass key hanging on my chest, they hesitated. Pushing the cart, I went through the glamorously dressed crowd and walked straight to the very front of the banquet hall. Under the flashing cameras, everyone went quiet, looking in astonishment at me, the uninvited guest. Standing in the crowd, Baiqing gave me a big thumbs up, while Muingyan was also there, excitedly clapping her hands. Looking at me, a flicker of panic crossed Baiwei's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by sheer surprise. Lowering her voice, she asked, Lin Xiao, what are you doing? After bringing the cart to a steady stop, I pulled out a velvet box from my pocket. In the shadows, just out of reach of the spotlights, I dropped to one knee and opened the box. Inside was a modest clustered diamond ring bought with the very first profit from my restaurant. President B, I looked up at her. I don't have a net worth of billions, nor do I have the ability to help you in the business world. But I can guarantee you a warm meal and a good night's sleep for every single day to come. Taking a deep breath, I asked, Baiwei, will you marry an ordinary guy like me? Dead silence filled the banquet hall. Business tycoons and investors exchanged bewildered glances, seemingly unable to comprehend why a female CEO worth over $1 billion would be proposed to by a chef pushing a snack cart with a diamond ring that looked pitifully small. Bai Wei stood frozen, her hands trembling slightly as tears spilled uncontrollably from her eyes, smudging her exquisite makeup. "Are you stupid?" she chided with a sob. "Today is my IPO day, and you come propose to me with a few skewers of grilled wheat gluten." Holding up the ring, my arm was getting a bit sore. "So do you accept?" Without a moment's hesitation, she thrust out her left hand and commanded, "Put it on." Smiling, I slipped the ring onto her ring finger, a perfect fit. She yanked me up and hugged me tightly. Under the watchful eyes of over 100 guests, and amid the flashing camera lights, I held her close. She choked up against my ear. "Don't you ever think about running away in this lifetime?" Thundering applause erupted from the crowd led by Bai-Chin whistling loudly. Reaching over, I picked up a fried starch sausage and handed it to Bai Wei. "Hungry? Eat it while it's hot." She took the sausage and took a huge bite without a care for her image. That night, the tone of the financial news took a sudden turn. Billionaire female CEO proposed to buy chef on IPO night, cries tears of emotion holding a starch sausage. This report proved to be even more viral than the IPO itself. A few days later, Bai Wei's official Weibo account updated with a status post containing 2 pictures. One was of bright red marriage certificates and the other was a photo of my back wearing an apron while cooking in the villa kitchen. The caption was simple, setting the record straight. He was never a substitute lover. I finally caught the ordinary man I wanted to marry most. This post instantly blew up the internet and the comment section went wild. Holy crap. What kind of angelic devoted husband literature is this? So, female CEOs secretly love home-cooked food too. Is that 50 million yuan story real? I want to apply for the substitute job too. Dream on upstairs. They're a two-way love story. Sitting on the sofa, scrolling through these comments, I couldn't help but chuckle out loud. What are you laughing at? Having finished her shower, Bai Wei walked over in her pajamas and sat down beside me. She had completely stripped away her CEO persona now, her hair casually tied up. "Laughing at your web novel account." I held out the phone screen toward her. Author snowflakes drifting. "When are you updating the ending for the substitute doting husband? Your readers are all rushing you." Bai Wei's face turned beet red instantly. She snatched the phone away. "How do you know about that account?" "I saw it the day I fixed your computer." Leaning back on the sofa with my hands folded behind my head, I teased. Not bad writing, though a bit cliché Mary Sue style. Tweak it next time. Enraged, she pounced on me to grab my neck. "Lin Xiao, I'm going to murder you to quiet you down." We wrestled into a playful heap. Finally, panting, she lay her head against my chest, listening to my heartbeat. "Lino," she called softly. "Yeah, actually Lin Yao coming to borrow money that day was a setup I arranged on purpose." She raised her head, her eyes darting away nervously. "I wanted you to know he wasn't my white moonlight. I wanted you to stay." Stroking her hair, I replied. "I know. When did you figure it out?" "The moment he begged you for game skin money," I chuckled. "No white moonlight lover could ever be that miserable." Pouting, she asked, "Then why didn't you expose me?" "Because I wanted to see what other ridiculous excuses you could come up with." Rolling over, I pressed her beneath me, but now it's over. Married life was peaceful and warm. My restaurant opened a branch location and was handed over to my apprentice to manage. I still went home on time every day to cook 3 meals for Bai Wei while she gradually cut down on corporate dinners, trying her best to be home before 8 p.m. However, the reversal of our roles brought some unexpected comedic moments. On a weekend morning, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows onto the living room rug. Wearing lounge clothes, I walked over with a mop toward Bai Wei, who was curled up on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. "President Bai," I thrust the mop toward her. Without looking up, she asked, "What's up, hubby? Need me to buy groceries?" "Not buying groceries." I pointed at the household duty chart on the wall. "Stop scrolling on your phone. Today's deep cleaning turn is yours." Bai Wei's hand froze, slowly raising her head. She glanced at the duty chart, which clearly read Saturday Bai Wei in charge of mopping. She tried to struggle. "I still have a company email to reply to." I didn't budge an inch. "Mop after replying." She started playing pity. My wrist hurts unforgivingly. I exposed her. "When you were swiping through short videos just now, your hand speed was pretty fast. Hurry up. Don't try to slack off." Baiwei sighed resignedly, put down her phone and took the mop. A grand female CEO of a listed company was now wearing cartoon pajamas, huffing and puffing as she mopped the living room floor. A scene extremely out of place yet extremely harmonious. Sitting on the sofa, I picked up her phone and casually clicked into the author dashboard of that web novel site. The substitute doting husband, President B's pampered treasure, was already completed. The title of the final chapter was An Ordinary Person's Ultimate Romance. Opening the comments section, the latest comment was a pinned reply from the author. Snowflakes drifting. Thank you all for the blessings. He's forcing me to mop the floor right now. Got to go do chores or no meat for dinner. Looking at this reply, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This was my wife, an adorable woman who appeared cold on the outside but was full of inner drama. Lin Xiao Baiwei shouted from the dining room. What do I do if I can't mop this stain off? Use some cleaning detergent, silly. I stood up and walked over to help her. The sunshine is just right and the days ahead are long. No cheat codes of billion-dollar fortunes, no business war intrigue, just daily necessities, and the chaotic yet sweet everyday life that belongs to us ordinary people. The end.